As an interviewer, he was a deadly interviewer, but he was always a fair interviewer. He didn't play cheap tricks. He didn't look for a cheap headline. His determination was to get out of the interviewee what they had to give.
My father made a name for himself in England in the 1960s as a satirical TV host, where he revelled in lampooning members of the political establishment, won awards for his comedy, and brushed shoulders with the stars. But his most notable achievement in the United States came when he secured a series of interviews with the former president, Richard Nixon. He paid $600,000 out of his own pocket for the interview. It was a massive gamble, but one that paid off.
In a sense, you're saying is that there are certain situations, and the Houston plan, or that part of it was one of them, where the president can decide that it's in the best interest of the nation or something, and do something illegal.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
If one had completely failed to get anything out of Nixon or any admissions out of Nixon and so on, it would have been pretty disastrous.
Far from being a disaster, the Frost-Nixon interview became a sensation and was later made into a Hollywood movie.
Maybe you should have been a politician and I the rigorous interviewer.
Maybe.
After the Nixon interview, the requests rolled in. Political leaders, royals and celebrities from around the world, most ended up face-to-face with my father. Now, on the eve of my father's memorial, I've decided to turn the tables and see if I can find out something I didn't already know, from someone who knew him both on and off screen. John Major was not only a British Prime Minister, but also a good friend of my father's. I sat down with him and began by asking him to recall the first time they met.
I think in the late 1970s, very different David from the international stellar star he subsequently became, but he was pretty famous then.
Both you and Dad shared the fact that you came from relatively basic upbringings and went on to be hugely successful. And do you think that had an aspect of an impact on why you got on so well?
Yeah, I think it did. I mean, from the moment I met David, it was an easy relationship. Sometimes you meet someone and a relationship is forced, it's difficult, it's uneasy. On other occasions, it's just easy. David was fascinated with what-if questions. Suppose this happened, what would that mean? And so was I. And of course, in terms of sport, we were both fanatically keen on it and spent hours talking about that as well.
Similar tastes in cricket, of course, but vastly different in the world of football. But
well, no man is without a blemish, and your father was insofar as football is concerned.
Is it strange that you built such a good friendship? I mean, essentially on screen, you were adversaries, and yet from that stemmed a great friendship.
I don't think it was at all difficult to form a friendship with David if you had common interests. He asked serious questions on serious issues, and if he received serious answers, he would pursue them. Mm-hmm. So there was a good deal of respect for David as an interviewer, apart from friendship.
And did that aspect mean that a political leader had to be interviewed by David Frost in order to get the sort of seal of approval, as it were?
Well, there was no reason not to. I mean, there are some people that political leaders do not wish to be interviewed by because they're egoists and the interview is about them, or because they ask foolish questions, or because they keep interrupting and they don't let any case be put. And then there are others, like David, who will ask the questions that need to be asked, will listen to the answer, and will then follow up the answer, not with a pre-prepared question, but with something that arises out of the answer.
And do you think, when we talk about his abilities, his skills, do you think his early foray into comedy and satire, did that influence his skill as an interviewer?
Well, I think it did, both on screen and off. David had a light touch, and he had a delicious sense of humour, and it was wry, and it was often self-deprecatory, and that's very charming, and it builds a bond.
Absolutely.
And I know no one, I think absolutely no one, who had such a wide range of people who would call themselves friends of David. Not
just a wide range of friends, but from interviewing politicians.
A diversity as well.
And on screen as well. I mean, not many people do a president and a prime minister one week and the Spice Girls or Uri Geller next week.
I wonder which got the bigger audience.
Well, so John, it's been an absolute privilege. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a joy, Wilfred. An absolute joy.